Hi everyone, it's Chris Tuck here from Survivors of Abuse. Today I really wanted to speak to you all about lockdown and how are you feeling during lockdown, and I really wanted to discuss the impact it actually has on people that have gone through any kind of trauma in their life. And adverse childhood experiences could be abuse, it could be neglect, it could be growing up in a domestic violent household, it could be growing up with parents that were addicted to drugs or alcohol, it could be that you lost a parent, it could be that a parent or your caregiver was in prison. So anything where it's caused you a trauma and it's had an impact on your mental, emotional and physical health really. And I just wanted to know what lockdown has done for you. We're 6 weeks in now, and I'm going to share how it's impacted me personally. And I also want people around you in your local community to be a bit less judgmental on those of us that do need to get out and about and out of our homes for the reasons that I'm going to share with you on this live. Okay, so please chip in and ask me any questions or make any comments, and then I can help answer anything that you may have worries about. And I've also got a plan of action that maybe will help some of you. So if you feel like you want to share this live, then please do. Otherwise, I'm just going to present what I want to speak about, and you can make your own comments or your own judgments on that. Okay, so just want to read something to you guys. So I've got this off of a website and I'll put the link up afterwards. Hi Jackie, hope you're well. I'll put the link up afterwards, but I'm just going to read it to you and just get your views on it. It says, for all the government's advice to stay at home and save lives, for millions of Britons, home may be the least safe place to be. The virus has created a perfect storm for victims of domestic abuse, and I'm going to add to this, child abuse, mental, physical and sexual abuse. A sharp reduction in support services, combined with a surge in unemployment or just home working, means cases of abuse are likely to skyrocket during the quarantine period with little respite available. Now, as a society, we don't like talking about abuse full stop. We just want to brush it under the carpet, believe it doesn't happen, and just, it's not happening to me, so, it's all right. But I'm telling you now that behind many closed doors, there is lots of abuse happening day in, day out. And many people who are suffering abuse don't actually know that that is what they're suffering from. They just put up with it. It's become their norm. And, the perpetrators of abuse now have a perfect cocktail for them to enable them to carry out the abuse that they dish out, whether it be mental abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, or a mixture of all of it. It's a cocktail, a recipe for disaster, lockdown. So, yes, I understand we need lockdown. I understand that, I get it. I'm not thick, I'm not stupid. But as a survivor of all forms of abuse and growing up in a domestic violence household, the last thing you want to be doing is being holed up with an abuser. Last thing you want to be doing. So when people, if they can, escape for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, here, there or whatever, no one knows what's going on behind closed doors. So I think we need to just, stop judging and go, they may need to be getting out more than the once, the twice, whatever the reason is. And even if they're not living in an abusive household right now, if you have come from that kind of background, you may still be, hi Megan, may still be living with that trauma of the abuse that you went through, and it's being triggered. All different triggers for different people. So I'm just going to carry on with this article. Even in normal times, domestic abuse survivors face Herculean tasks to escape their abusers, but the lockdown has made the challenge almost impossible. They may not be able to call support lines while their partner is in the room. Hi, Emma. They may be forced to bear the brunt of a perpetrator's rage and frustration. They may find it impossible to escape. Now, I don't know if any of you have been watching the Corrie storyline of the domestic abuse. That's been very well acted, and it's been over a long period of time, and you have seen how insipid it is, how slowly Jeff, worked on Yasmin and made her a quivering wreck and made her basically doubt her whole self and believe everything that he said. He destroyed her actual essence, her self-worth, her self-being. This is how perpetrators, that's how they act, that's what they do. And even though we saw people around Yasmin noticing little things, no one really understood exactly what was going on or intervened. And it came to a place where, as we saw last night, that she actually, I know this is fictional, but this is many people's reality, yeah? Domestic abuse, sexual abuse, abuse of children, it's many people's reality, happens day in, day out. And if you have never been party to this, thank your lucky stars. Yeah, that is one thing that you can be truly grateful for, that there's never been abuse in your life, because it affects not only the person that's being abused, but if there's children in the mix, children watching this, growing up in this situation, it's very toxic and damaging for them as well. And again, I'm not putting any blame on the victim here. I'm just explaining the situation. The sheer scale of domestic abuse in this country is shocking. And again, I'm just going to keep caveating domestic abuse, child abuse. We are not going to forget child abuse in this, because every time there's a domestic abuse where there's children living in that situation, they are being abused. Just seeing it is abuse. In the year ending March 2019, an estimated 2.4 million adults aged 16 to 74 years experienced domestic abuse. 1.6 million women and 786,000 men, with the majority linked to partners rather than other family members. Hi, Danielle. Whilst it certainly affects both sexes, women are statistically more likely to experience repeated and severe forms of abuse, including sexual violence. They are also more likely to have experienced ongoing physical, emotional, psychological, or violent abuse that results in serious injury or death. Women experience higher rates of repeated attacks and are much more likely to be seriously injured. Now, we know, we've seen cases of where women have abused men. It happens both ways, but statistically, it is more male on female. And I'm not condoning either. Abuse is abuse, and a victim is a victim, and they all need support. In the same 12-month period, 80 women were killed by a current or former partner, a 27% increase compared on the previous year. In 4 out of 10 cases, the victims were killed in a domestic homicide. On average, 2 women every week across England and Wales are killed by a current or former partner. And it goes on a little bit about deaths, and I don't really want to concentrate on that, even though that is obviously a dire outcome for anybody that's going through domestic violence. The charity Refuge has reported a 120% increase in calls to its helpline since the COVID-19 pandemic has begun. This is not to say that there has not been action to address the issue. The government has introduced a #YouAreNotAlone campaign to raise awareness of the help available to domestic abuse survivors. And the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, announced $750 million of funding for the charity sector 2 million of which has been set aside to bolster helplines and online support for domestic abuse charities. Now, I tweeted this yesterday. Hi, Pauline. I tweeted this yesterday and I just said, look, this is fantastic. All this help for domestic abuse. It's been a long time coming. Absolutely long time coming. However, sexual violence, sexual abuse is always been the poor cousin to domestic violence, abuse, help and support. And we need to make sure that there is equality in the funding and the services, the service provision for anybody that's going through some kind of abuse. Yeah. Now, right. Women's Aid, the federation of almost 180 domestic abuse charities, are working alongside South Eastern and Great Western Railway to offer free train travel for women seeking refuge services in their hashtag Rail to Refuge campaign to help women escape their abusers. Hi, Maureen. Hi, Priyanka. I hope I've said your name right. The government's funding and campaigns are welcome, but I believe we can do more. Women's Aid surveyed 45 local domestic abuse services and identified that they believe the sector needs a cash injection of 48.2 million to enable them to provide helplines, online chats, refuges, as well as to cope with the increased demand. Now, they're saying that the lockdown is going to cause a backlog of victims. There is going to be so many victims, hi Sue, coming forwards at the end of this lockdown. So many. Because at the moment, as we said, services are scaled right back. So I work in the charity sector myself, and I belong to many groups that are working with the government on gold and silver command to deal with the blight on our society that is domestic abuse and child abuse. And basically, at the moment, services are not face-to-face because of the current climate. The services that are being offered online are not really working on anybody's trauma. They're literally checking in on people and making sure that they feel that they're not alone. So the actual work that these charities do through their counselling services, there's already a backlog and the waiting lists are increasing. And once we come out of this, when we can go back to some kind of face-to-face counselling, then the demand for those services is going to skyrocket. The amount of people that will realise that they want to leave their partners because of domestic violence is going to skyrocket. And they're all going to need the help and support to enable them to do that. Because unfortunately, as many of my friends that I know who have fled domestic violence relationships, you can't just up and leave, because the moment you decide you want to leave, that is often the most precarious time for the abuse to heighten or for the violence to escalate, is when the abuser realises that the victim wants out. So getting out of a violent relationship, or especially when there's kids involved, often needs planning and preparation to enable that woman, or it could be the man, to leave without there being an escalation of, or even a murder, a domestic violence, a murder happening. So, so services are already inundated, and this COVID pandemic has just highlighted how underfunded the charity sector that deal with domestic violence and child sexual abuse and child abuse has been underfunded for so long. And now, because of the lockdown, government are realising the impact of people who are being abused being locked down together, how much the abuse is going to increase because of the unemployment, because of tempers fraying, because of people not being able to get out to their usual haunts, because of, I don't know, more access to alcohol and drugs in some households. So as soon as you've got alcohol and drug in the mix, violence does escalate if violence already exists in those households. I know from growing up in one of, I grew up in 3 domestic violence households. One with my mum and dad, and my mum left that relationship when I was 7. Then I was in a household with my dad and my stepmum, and I grew up knowing that my real dad was under the thumb of my stepmum. That's how I perceived it. Even though they were both violent, they were both not good people. And then I went to live with my mum and my stepdad, and that was an alcoholic-fueled domestic violent relationship household. So, it's not great. And this, guys, this was like 40 years ago for me, like 35 to 40 years ago. And things haven't changed for children of today in some households. So this article carries on to say, we must also recognise the likely longer-term effects of coronavirus on survivors. A huge economic contraction will mean higher unemployment, worse mental health, and with both a likely surge in abuse. Abuse itself has a profound economic impact, with a Home Office report in 2017 putting the cost at a staggering $66 billion a year. The government has made huge strides over the last decade in strengthening protections for domestic abuse survivors, with the introduction of Clare's Law, for example, the criminalisation of forced marriage, and the inclusion of coerced control in the definition of domestic violence. The Domestic Abuse Bill that had its second reading this week in Parliament is taking the UK to another step further forwards in supporting survivors. Meanwhile, we need to take a number of steps, including increasing the funding, which they've done, and increasing refuge spaces. Most of us wishing for life to get back to normal as quickly as possible. For those who are survivors of domestic abuse or any form of abuse, will be wishing for a new normal, a safe normal, where home is safe for them as it is for the rest of us. And that is the crux of all of this, guys, is home. Home should be a safe space for all of us. It just should. And when it's not, it can become a prison. It can become a place of fear and a place of you just don't want to be there. And even though my home right now that I live in is a safe space for me, I have struggled so much with this COVID-19 because my work with domestic violence, child sexual abuse, usually I leave my home, I go to meetings, I do my work, or I go to my local cafe. For the last 2 years, I've gone to my local cafe to do my work. So I'm out of my home, and all of the stuff, the emotions, because when you do this work, guys, you get emotionally involved in it. You just do. Everything that I do on a day-to-day basis, I do outside of my home usually. And when I get home, I like to have the option of switching off from it. And the last 6 weeks, that's not been available to me. So even like right now, even though I've been out for my walk, I'm now back in the park because my home is very busy. I've got 2 children and a husband, all home doing their own thing, making noise. I've got my next door neighbours cutting their grass. There's no way, hi Ellie, I can do this live in that noisy environment. I just can't do it, and you guys would be hearing all that background noise. So it's not possible for me to be at home when I'm doing this kind of work. You know, when I'm talking about detailed child abuse, for example, or details of someone sharing their case with me and I'm having a normal conversation, I can't just have those kinds of conversations in my house because I don't want my children and my husband being impacted by it. And because I've had to be at home, like a lot of people that work in the charity sector in this area, it's been very hard. So I spoke to lots of CEOs. I was on a group call yesterday with chief execs and directors of all different charities. And they're all saying the same. They're trying to keep their staff motivated. Their staff are trying to help their clients as much as possible. But we are being impacted because we're having to take our work home and not get away from it. And, you know, even when you went out to work and then you come home, you could go to the gym maybe and work out your emotions and your feelings and everything else that you've taken on during the day, and then come home and close the door to it all and be normal in your safe environment. And that is and I was speaking to people that work at the inquiry yesterday as well, who are not survivors, and even they feel impacted by having to work around child sexual abuse, domestic violence, and not having a break from it at home. So it is really difficult for people. And then now I want you to actually step in the shoes of a survivor. Step into the shoes of a survivor or someone that is going through abuse right now, whether it be an adult, an adolescent or a child. Put yourself in their shoes. What do you think they are feeling? I can tell you from my own experience, fear. Complete and utter fear. What's going to happen next? And in my case, it was, where's the next meal coming from? Who's going to hit me next? Who's going to shout next? Who's going to get hurt next? This is many people's reality, day in, day out. And I'm not trying to scare you or scaremonger or anything like that. What I'm trying to do is raise awareness and make you, some of you, understand that getting out of the house is a must for some people, and being locked down or being, many survivors have problems, issues with anyone in authority, either because they've not been believed when they've reported abuse, or they've been mistreated, or the appropriate response hasn't happened. And because of that, being told, hi Beck, being told that they have to stay indoors is a massive trigger. And even though your logical brain goes, yeah, stay indoors, it's the best thing to do to curb the virus, everything that we're being told by Chris Whitty, the Chief Medical Officer, the deep-rooted stuff that we've gone through as children and adolescents, our coping mechanisms, especially one of mine is to run. So the minute I feel threatened or I'm being told what to do, I just want to get out. I want to stride. I want my freedom. I want to be able to express myself. And it's a deep, deep feeling. It's so deep-seated. And that comes out to play. It just does. It comes out to play. And I'm not saying I'm typical of most survivors, because I'm not. Some will resonate with me, and many will have other different coping strategies. But for me, being a survivor, working in this field, having my safe home space being invaded by my work, not through choice. My choice is to go out and be in my cafe when I'm doing my work, or go into actual meetings to do my work. That is how I separate the work that I do, and keeping myself healthy and sane, and in a normal, what I call my normal environment, which is bringing up my 2 children and having my husband around, and not thinking about all the children that are being abused right now, and all of the women and the male victims of domestic violence. And it really gets to me. I was walking with my friend the other day, and I was really angry for a lot of the walk. And it took that whole walk for me to simmer down and get the anger out of me. And why was I angry? I wasn't angry at my friends or my family. I was angry at the work that I'd just been doing. I was reading a report, and I can't say what about at the moment, but I was reading a report, and the contents of that report made me sick, made me angry, and just I feel like nothing's changed. It has, but it's so slow. Hi, Rosie. And these thoughts and these feelings, if unexpressed, I take it back into my home. I bite at my husband and my children. They bite back, or they go, oh, mum's in a mood again, which I don't want that to come across, that mum's in a mood again. And it impacts everybody in the household. And it's not healthy. It's not healthy. So I wanted you to put yourself into a survivor's shoes. And it's impossible to do that. And I'm wrong to ask you to do that, because unless you've been through it, you can't possibly understand what it is truly like to go through mental, physical, emotional, sexual abuse, unless you've been through it. I'm not saying that you're not in the best place to, hi Deb, in the best place to help and support someone, because you probably are. But if you do know someone that's gone through abuse of any kind, and you want to help them the best, then the best way to help them is not to judge and just to listen. And most people that I know don't expect you to fix their lives for them, because you can't. Only you can fix your own life. I'm the only person that can fix my life, whatever that fix means. But you can support, you can listen, and you can not judge, and you can be there to help them get through it, and you can probably make a phone call for them and reach out to these services that are increasing, because the funding is now being made available for these services to be available. Now, I know I rattle on, okay, but I just want you to realise that if you're making judgments on people, and we all judge, there's not one human being in this world that does not judge. But if you are making judgments about people and why they are out and about, think laterally, think bigger picture. And as long as they're observing the physical distancing rule, who cares? Really? Yeah? They think that more people are gonna get harmed mentally, physically, emotionally from this lockdown than actual deaths from COVID-19. And now I'm not comparing, and I'm not saying COVID-19 deaths are not important. Of course they bloody are. No one wants to see any deaths from any disease. We don't. But we've also got to think about the impact of what lockdown means on different for individuals, for all of us. What does it mean for all of us? So, yeah, let's be less judgmental and let's be more supportive, because no one knows. You know, I can see so many people in this park today. No one knows their stories. I'm hoping that they're from happy, healthy households and they're just getting out for their hours exercise. I hope that's happening for everybody. But I know from my work that that's not the case for everyone. Okay, so I'm just going out to see if there's any questions or any comments at the moment, okay? So, so many gang rape during lockdown in India, we are not safe. Again, the stories that I've read about India and the rapes of young children and women breaks my heart. In England, things are difficult enough, but they're nothing like what you have to put up with in India. And I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. Pauline says, been summoned, we'll watch rest later. Thanks, Chris, raising much needed conversations. I just think that we need to have these conversations. And for me, working in this sector, which I choose to do, I don't have to do it, I choose to do it because I think that my skill set and my knowledge and my expertise is here because of my lived experience, and that is what I choose to do at the moment. But I also didn't realise the massive impact that this lockdown is having on me, and I'm trying to come up with different coping strategies for myself that help me get through as a survivor, but as a charity founder and also for a member of a consultant to the inquiry whose work is still ongoing. And I think it's really important that we need to acknowledge what has changed for us all, what are we coping with and what are we not coping with, and reaching out and asking for help and support where we can. And you know, there's many people that are coping really well. Fantastic. Can we learn from that? So a few people on my timeline earlier have said, you know, that the lockdown's been the best thing for them because they've been able to spend more time with their family, and that's great if your family is safe and free from all kinds of abuse. It's fantastic. Hi, Mel. And I'm really pleased for you. Some people said they've taken up cooking, they've taken up gardening, they've taken up all different arts and crafts, and others have found it extremely difficult. And I'm a bit in the middle because my house is my safe space and I'm trying to keep it that way for me. So I will be doing more work out and about as much as possible, as long as I can keep up with this physical distancing. Yeah, so we all need to do what we need to do to keep ourselves healthy, well and sane. That's it at the end of the day. That's how we've got to get through this. And we've also got to stop being so bloody judgmental of other people. Yes, I get we need the lockdown, I get it. But also there are some that need to get out and about for whatever reasons they have, okay? I know some survivors are quite happy being at home. I know many that are very happy being at home, and that's fantastic because some of them, that is their life anyway, but others, they just feel like it's time now to just spend on themselves, sort out their homes, make their life what they want. Some are learning, but others are cracking up, literally cracking up. And I've read another article where the woman that wrote it said that many are just in survival mode. And once they've got past this lockdown, survival mode will slip away and there will be a lot of mental health issues and lots of people needing counselling for one kind or another. Now, there was a video that I watched this morning about the central nervous system. And when you are in fight, flight, freeze mode, so when you're in your sympathetic part of your nervous system, you're in survival mode, you're in fight, flight, freeze. And if you're in any kind of fear at the moment, whatever that fear is, you will be in your sympathetic nervous part of your nervous system, and you will either want to eat everything within sight, or you might not want to eat at all. So there's two ways of dealing with stress, big rock stress, overwhelming stress. And so you need to figure out, why is it you're fearful? What is causing your fear? And what are your behaviours around the fear that you are experiencing? So if you are reaching for everything and anything in your cupboards and your fridge, and you're putting on weight now and you don't like it, you need to actually look at what is triggering your fear and what solutions can you put into place to stop your behaviour around the trigger of the fear. Okay, so that is basic level. And then there is your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest, your digest, you're calm, you're okay, you can learn, you can do all the nice things in life. Okay, and that's where most of us, well, that's where we want to be most of the time. We need a bit of sympathetic nervous system, we need a bit of get up and go, we need a bit of cortisol, but we don't need this overwhelming sense of fear every turn, being triggered left, right and centre, and just not being in control of how we're living, how we're thinking and how we're feeling. Now, many survivors of abuse, whether they're currently going through it or whether their trauma, they're being re-triggered, will be going through or living in their sympathetic branch of their nervous system, and it can be very damaging over time. Okay, so I was watching this video this morning about this doctor talking about she was talking about 3 branches of the central nervous system, but just keep it simple. I'm just going to do sympathetic and parasympathetic. And she was saying that people need a personal connection plan. And what this is, I've printed it off, and I've actually shared it in my survivors group actually. I've printed it off, and basically it says, what do I do? Who are the people in my life that I feel connected to? So you need to make a list. What can we do together to maintain that connection? So connection, human connection is really, really important. And unfortunately for many survivors, we don't trust other humans because that trust was broken as children growing up. And those are individuals that are in domestic violence relationships, as you saw on Coronation Street with Yasmin and Jeff. That trust that she had in him was broken. So what do I do? Who are the people in my life that I feel connected to? And it may be a really close friend. It may be someone in a survivors group. It might be the survivor group. It might be your therapist. It might be a loved one. So it's really important that you work out who are the people in your life that you feel connected to. What can you do together to maintain that connection? So Zoom, WhatsApp, Messenger, yeah, any kind of platform that you can use to keep connected, or even, you know, your next door neighbour, talking over the fence, just reaching out to someone and keep that connection. What can I do to nourish the connection to me? So there's external connections, yeah, but there's also your own connection to self. What can you do to nourish your connection to yourself? And again, for many survivors, this is the crux, this is the hard work, yeah, is the connection to self. Many survivors don't like themselves. They find it hard to connect with themselves. Now, I know that when I have lots of downtime, it does my head in, because I don't want to be thinking. I like being busy. So some survivors' coping strategies might be, mine is to work. And one of the things that I've learned from this lockdown is not to be so busy, and that I can enjoy myself and I can read a book, etc., etc. So I'm learning things about myself in this lockdown as well. But that coping strategy, of mine to work is worked very well for me over the years. And now, because everybody else is not working, or not working to the degree that we was, even my life has slowed down and I'm being forced to connect with myself. So what can you do to nourish that connection to yourself? Be honest, be open. There is always something we can do for ourselves. And the next thing is, so who is it that we can connect with? How can we connect with them? How can we strengthen that? And how can I nourish the connection to myself? And for me, with the Cleaner Living program, it's about being in the right mindset. It's about behaviours, the right behaviours for me. It's about eating nutritionally well. It's about exercising. It's about getting out in nature. It's about having a good sleeping routine. And it's about, you know, exercising. That is my life. And I'm not saying it's right for everyone, but what I'm saying is, what can you do for yourself? And then the next part of this personal connection plan, guys, is what do I want to explore? Now, many survivors in the past have been shut down to a degree where they've not actually had the opportunity to explore education, because they've been their self-esteem has been so damaged by the people around them. You know, you're thick, you're stupid, you won't amount to anything, etc., etc. They've been so downtrodden, and you can see that in domestic violence relationships, and you can see that where there is child abuse within the family home, or even bullying at school, for example. You can see it everywhere, where someone, an individual, has been so I'm going to use the word beaten up, but in the terms of emotional abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse, or sexual abuse, where someone has been so beaten up, in quote marks, they don't feel like they can do things. So, you know, some people out there go, oh, the world's your oyster, you can do anything. If you believe it, you can achieve it, all of that. And yes, I believe that when I'm in the right mindset. But I had to work through a mindset where I didn't think that I had those opportunities were open to me. I had to really learn through counselling and being told by a few people that I was good enough and I was able to do X, Y, and Z, and I could achieve things if I put my mind to it. And I had so many failures. You know, take for example when I was studying for accountancy. It took me 8 years to become a qualified accountant. I failed time and time again. But you know, the only thing that got me up, I paid for all of my education. I never had a holiday. I was on basic pay. And the only thing that ever got me back up to do another round of accountancy exams was the fact that I wanted stability, security, and a roof over my head. That was the only thing that kept me going for 8 years. I studied my arse off, guys. And every time I failed, I knew it was going to cost me another £1,000 to resit my exams. I knew it was going to cost me another year of my life. But the overwhelming thing in my gut that drove me on was, I want a roof over my head. I never want to be homeless again. Never want to be homeless again. I never want to have that sense of I just wanted to be secure, I wanted to be stable, and I wanted a roof over my head. Yeah, that's what drove me. And it still drives me today. And right now, I thank my lucky stars. I'm so grateful that I've been able to build this resilience up over years. Over 30 years, I've built this resilience up. And I've got to know myself. I've got to know that I can rely on myself. I've got to know that I am able to pull it out of the bag when it's needed. That I've got lots of fingers in lots of pies, lots of ways of earning money. Because money does make the world go round, unfortunately. And my worst fear right now would be to be homeless and not have that security, not have that stability, not have that safe place. And I've got that, and I'm grateful. And I need to make sure that I keep my safe space safe. So going back to the beginning of this conversation when I was talking about having a safe space, and if you're going through any kind of domestic violence or any kind of childhood abuse, that ain't a safe space. Getting out is safe, even if it's just for 5 minutes. It's a reprieve from what's going on behind those closed doors for those that are being abused. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. But I just wanted to show you that, yeah, you can achieve if you believe, but at the same time, you have had to have been brought up in that nurturing, caring, loving environment to know that there are opportunities out there, to know that you can take advantage, not advantage, but you know, the world is your oyster. And I have taught my kids that. But they have the basic groundwork, the basic, hi Katie, the basic foundations. My kids are loved, they're cared for, they know that they've got a roof over their head, they're very secure, they're stable. So they are in a prime place to go and achieve, because all of their basic needs are being met. They don't have to face the quicksand feeling of living or being brought up in an abusive environment. They don't have that. They have the security. Hi, Rachel. They have the security and the love and the care. You know, I have arguments with my kids every day, like most people. Normal household. Who's cooking the dinner? Who's putting out the recycling? Who's putting on the dishwasher? We all argue about those kind of things. But ultimately, my kids have the basic blocks, building blocks, to be able to go out and achieve, and they know that. But when you're a child that hasn't got that, or a teenager that hasn't got that, they don't know that those opportunities are out there. So, you know, God, I'm hoping I'm educating some people today, because I'm bearing my soul. It is really difficult for those children to realise that those opportunities can be theirs for the taking. And even, you know, my daughter, she was severely bullied at school. That's impacted her, and I've had to bolster her up, build her up to actually understand that she can go and do anything she wants and be anybody that she wants. And that's been a real hard thing for her to actually believe when people have been putting her down and bullying her at school. She's in a completely different environment now at college and absolutely loves it. But that was a really hard time for her and me, because while she was going through it, I was being triggered all over again, and I had to deal with my younger person, because I was bullied at school, but I was also abused at home, as you know. I had to deal with all of the stuff that was coming up for me and dealing with that without it impacting my daughter. So that was really, really difficult. So I'm just sharing with you what it is like to be a survivor. And unless you have been in a survivor's shoes, you can't really, hi Joanne, you can't really understand what it is truly like. And this lockdown, I read you the article, and there's so many online. It's staggering. The meetings that I've been in this week with professionals from all different charities that run these charities, and they're saying like it's skyrocketing. They've never seen anything like it. But now at least the government are listening. At least the government are now putting in place proper funding, and they're realising how costly in terms of mental health and in terms of the actual pounds that this lockdown is creating. Yes, we need to save lives, I get that, but there are so many other forms of impact that this lockdown is causing, and I'm hoping that I've highlighted some of this for you in a sensible and practical way, really. So this wasn't meant to be a pity party, but I just wanted to explain the deep fear that I have that can be triggered by this lockdown, and that my home is my safe space. I don't really want to be bringing my work home, because I already have that at home. I have my personal issues of just being a survivor and being triggered on a daily basis that I have to tackle with whilst I'm in my own home. Hi Jade. That I have to tackle with and live with on a daily basis within my home, and I have to really think about what triggers me, how I am reacting and responding to that, and how that is actually impacting my children and my husband, and impacting me and the way that I behave at home. And I can tell you that, unfortunately, many perpetrators of abuse, I say many because it's not all, have gone through some form of abuse themselves, and it doesn't make it right. I'm not saying that. I don't condone it. I don't condone it at all. But there are many people that are living with issues that they've never shared with anybody, they've never expressed, and this lockdown could maybe making them drink more, maybe them taking more drugs, whether it be prescription drugs or recreational drugs, and anything that is a stimulant to them will heighten their response, will heighten the way they respond to people within the household. And I think we all as individuals need to take responsibility for how we are within our relationships, within our family circle. So for those of you who have loving family homes and you've got everything in balance and lockdown is okay for you, fantastic. I wish that it was the same for everybody. I wish it was the same for everybody, but the reality, it is not. It is not. So we need to just be less judgmental, more understanding and more supportive, especially if someone reaches out to you. So I'm just going to see if there's any more comments, and then I'm just going to wrap up really, guys. Oh, thanks. Don't feel like I'm fabulous. So I just really want to wrap up now and just say there is a lot of domestic abuse going on, lots of childhood abuse going on, and don't shut your eyes to it just because it's an uncomfortable subject. Try living with it. Try being a survivor of it. Yeah. And to also express to you, those of you that are struggling, that you can try and do your personal connection plan and work out. Here it is. It's not mine. I got it off online, and basically I've gone through it already, but I'm just going to recap for those that have joined. What do I do? Who are the people in my life that I feel connected to? So make sure you're connecting with people on a daily basis. Do not be on your own with this. And you know, you can be in a family of people but still feel that you're on your own. Reach out to someone that you do trust. Yeah. How can you build and maintain those connections to people? What can you do to nourish yourself? Are you getting very angry, more antsy, more anxious? What can you do to reduce the anxiety levels, to reduce your anger? Do you actually need to reach out and say you've got anger issues and deal with them? Because if your anger kicks off, it then impacts your kids. If you've got kids, it impacts your other half. Yeah. So don't let it get there, because this is how things escalate and how abuse, some abuse actually happens, because things get out of hand, because you've not controlled yourself. So what is it causing you to react the way that you're reacting? Why are you reacting the way that you're reacting? What can you do to help yourself to make sure that your relationships in your circle are better? Yeah, because it comes down to personal responsibility as well as, yeah. Just think, if all those perpetrators of abuse actually thought for 1 minute about how their actions are causing discomfort or or you know, they're causing someone else pain, if they just thought for 1 minute about their actions and they responded differently and they actually acknowledged that they've got a problem and they actually said sorry and they went and got help for themselves, we wouldn't have this environment that we've got. Domestic abuse rocketing, child abuse rocketing. Let's look at ourselves. Let's hold the mirror up and look at ourselves first. What are we doing that we need to change? Yeah. And I'm not saying victims here are the problem. I am saying perpetrators are the problem. But also, if you are a victim, know that you're not alone. Know that it's not your fault, and know that there is help out there that you can go out and get. Please, 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 do not let yourself be abused in any way, shape or form. Please do not put up with it. Please get the help to get yourself out. And if you've got children, please do not think that staying put is the best for your children. I can categorically say it's not. It's not. Children learn through their role models. If they're seeing you, whether you're male or female, being mentally abused, physically abused, sexually abused, do you not think they're either going to be impacted themselves or going to copy what they're seeing and hearing? Do you not think that? And again, don't forget, if you have been a survivor, a victim survivor of childhood abuse, domestic violence, and you are in a place now where you are free, as in you are free mentally and physically, what is it you want to explore? What is it you want out of your life? We only have one life, yeah? So what is it you want to do with your life? Now, I'm not expecting you to wake up tomorrow and go, right, I'm going to change this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do this, that and the other. It don't work like that. It works by you being open and honest with yourself. What are your relationships around you like? What do they look like? Are they happy? Are they healthy? Are they loving? Are they caring? Are they kind? If no, what are you going to do to take yourself out of that situation? What help do you need to get yourself out of that situation? There is no blame here. There is understanding, there is empathy, and there are practical things that you can do. Just do not, hi Kerry, do not think that by staying in a toxic relationship that you are helping yourself or your child or your children, because you're not, guys. And please, there's no blame here, but you are not. So if you are in a safe now environment for you, what is it that you want to explore? What is it you would like to experiment with? What connections is it you want to make? Who do you want to connect with? Who is your ideal person? Who is your ideal relationship? Yeah? Not saying that you're going to get that, but what is it you do want and what is it you don't want? And often when you work out what it is you don't want, then you know that you're setting yourself up for a better life. Yeah? You know you're setting yourself up for a better life. And I know many survivors live on their own because they trust themselves, they like their space, they like feeling safe. But maybe that's the best thing for them right now, but it's not what their future is going to be. Yeah? But we've all got to work through our own stuff at our own pace, in our own time. We all need to learn to trust or not. Use your gut. Gut is a good thing when it comes to trusting people. But you know, once you've got yourself out of that survival situation that many people are in at this moment in time because of lockdown, once you get yourself out of that, once you get yourself out of that, what is it you want from your life? And work towards that, yeah? So I shared with you earlier the struggle that I had with my accounting exams, and most of it, the 8 years that I studied to become an accountant, and the times that I failed, and then I had to find the money and the inner resilience to try and do it again. it was hard work. And at the age of 28, when I got my certificate of the 8 years of gruel that I went through, and every time I failed, all of the abuse that I went through as a child, you know, you're stupid, you're thick, you're not worthy, you're not going to amount to anything, that came crashing back like a volcano. That came back at me more and more. So I went through a time where I was like absolutely down in the dumps, but then I was living on my own. Well, I wasn't. I was living with my boyfriend, but what I'm saying is I wasn't with my caregivers anymore. And when I did pass, I was elated. My self-esteem was high. So every time there was a little win, I made sure that I made that little win count. And every time I achieved something, it changed my mindset to thinking that, you know what, those negative things that were going on in my head wasn't my reality. That was my reality when I was a child, but as an adult, I was achieving things on my own, and I was able to do things, and I was able to clock those things up, and I was able to tell myself my actual reality, that I was worthy, I was able to do things, I was able to achieve things. And the more I did, the more I was able to do, then I knew that the fear that was holding me back, that fear's gone. So now, guys, you know, I get a bit worried sometimes about, you know, when I've got to go and do a talk, or when I've got to do a live, or when I've got to go and do something that's outside my comfort zone. But I know that once I get through it, I'm going to be okay. Nothing's ever going to be like the abuse that I went through. Nothing. So yes, I get scared, and I get worried, and I get anxious about what people are going to think. But deep down, you can rely on yourself. You know you're going to be okay. You're not going to die. Literally, this is what I think. You're not going to die. You're going to be okay. Just go and do it anyway. Because if you don't try and do it, you're going to be forever regretful. But if you try it and you fail, the fail is not a failure as in you're no good. The failure is a step to success. You know that route doesn't work for you. So try a different route, try a different road. Yeah, that's what I've learned through my lifetime. And that's what keeps me going, really, is just keep trying. If it doesn't work, there'll always be another way. So, my lockdown journey so far, as I said, my safe space is my home. I don't really like taking my work into my home, so hence why I'm out on a park bench. I'm actually sitting in a child's play park that is actually shut. I snuck through a hedge, but I'm not playing. I'm here having a chat with you guys because I think it's serious stuff that needs to be expressed and explained to people. So if you're in survival at the moment, please reach out when you can and get the support and help. If you find yourself in a place where you are not in survival mode anymore, but you are looking for more, think about what it is you want from your life and go after it, guys. We've only got one life. Please go after it. Please go and live your dream, whatever that dream is. And if you have never been able to dream before because people have shut you down, what is it you decide as an adult? What is it your child wanted to do? What is it your teenage self wanted to do? What is it as an adult you want to do? And go out there and go and do it, please. Please don't let your past define your present or your future. Please don't do that. Go out and do what it is that you want to do. Of course, not harming anyone else, nor harming yourself in any way, shape or form. Be happy, be healthy, be safe, and get through this downtime the best way that you can for yourself. And if you know that someone else is struggling, connect with them and just say, I can't sort your life out for you, but I'm here for you. I can listen, I can hold your hand virtually, hold your hand and I can support you. Okay, guys, I've rattled on for far too long. Thank you for joining me. Please feel free to share this live if you want to. It's up to you. And I would love to hear your comments and your thoughts and your feelings on what I've shared with you today. All right then. Thanks very much, guys. Love to you all. Bye for now.